Good day, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rudy Page, and I'm really pleased that we have with us today Donald Campbell. Good morning, Donald. How are you?
Good morning, Rudy. I'm very well, thank you. And thank you very much for asking me to participate in your program.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, Donald Campbell served 36 years in the Royal Air Force and retired as a warrant officer in 2006. His years of service as an engineer extended to many countries around the world, including Northern Ireland, Madagascar, Germany, Holland, Denmark, Norway, Sardinia, Saudi, Falkland Islands, Belize, and the USA. He served most of his years on large operational units as a survival equipment technician, working on fast jet aircraft such as Jaguar, Harrier, Tornado, Hawks, and a variety of helicopters. His final 7 years were in charge of his training school as the training manager at RAF Cosford Defence College of Aeronautical Engineering. He was awarded 2 commendations for meritorious service, one of which was in conjunction with the Queen's Birthday Honours List 2002, and a Good Show Award for an outstanding personal contribution to the work of the Careers Information Service 2004. Donald is now a proud veteran who gives of his time as a role model and community ambassador by doing presentations in schools, organisations, and to the West Midlands Police Cadet Force. Very impressive, Sir Donald.
Well, thank you very much, Rudy. It does sound very impressive, but I just see myself as a humble individual who's had a very fortunate life in terms of my career, and I'm proud to share it with the world, so to speak.
Thank you very much, Donald, indeed. So, Donald, after that broad outline of your career, what have been your fondest memories? But before you get into that, tell us a bit about yourself and your family history.
Well, I call myself a Windrush child, going with the theme of today about the Windrush people. And that's because I was born in Jamaica and I came here at age 13. And that's after my father left when I was 4 to come to England. And then my mother left us all as children, 5 of us, when I was 7. And I didn't see him again until age 13. Now that was quite a wrench for me because I was very, very close to, particularly my mother. So I came to England, Birmingham at the age of 13 and went to school. And after that, at age 18, I decided to join the military, in this case, the Royal Air Force. It was something that was just developed in me. I don't know why, but I was influenced to be a military person, and the Royal Air Force was it for me.
Okay. And what has been your fondest memories over those years?
My fondest memories was, well, there's several actually. When you join to travel the world and meet people and all that, at age 18, I thought I knew what that really meant. But, you know, going to the various countries that you mentioned, starting in Northern Ireland and Madagascar and all these places, there's so many fond memories. But meeting people and learning about people and they learning about you culturally and all other ways, it's absolutely amazing. And actually growing up in the Air Force and experiencing the front line, so to speak, of operational units and just going from one place to the next. You could be here today, and today you're going to call that you've got to be another part of the world. And that has happened to me today, not tomorrow. And that's how it is. Now, as a young man working on the front line, so to speak, on fast jets and helicopters, as you mentioned, that was terribly exciting because that's what I wanted. Because before that, I grew up in the conurbation of the second city of Birmingham, and it was just bricks and mortar and motor vehicles, and so to speak. So to be outside of that in the fast world on the front line, it was just, in some case, mind-blowing, but in a very positive way. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. Mm. And then, of course, as you go through the life in the forces, and you're not just working on these aircrafts, you go flying in these aircraft as well, doing acrobatics and all that sort of thing. Now, for a young man or a young woman, it was just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. So, as you say that, how did your friends react to you when you came back during your times of leave? And how did you then react to your friends, given the kind of lifestyle you are now living?
That is a really good question, because, when you leave out and all your schoolmates are around you, and then you depart for like maybe a year or two or three, in that short space of time, you don't even realize until you come back how much you've done in terms of going from one place to the next, to the next, to the next. Because within 2.5 years, I'd done Wales, Northern Ireland, Germany, Holland, and all these places. And coming back after 2.5 years and talking to my schoolmates, I realized that the whole place went quiet and everybody was looking at me and saying, what are you saying to us? It was a complete different world that I was taking them into. Yeah. But because I was so involved in that, I didn't really see it until I started to talk to them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was quite something really amazing.
So what were your greatest challenges and how did you overcome them in order to make progression?
My greatest challenges, there were quite a few. And as a young boy young man growing up in such a big wide world, you often are an individual in a lot of sense, because oftentimes you may have, say, a bus of 50 people sitting on that bus, and I was the only one from the Caribbean, so to speak, the only person of color. And then, of course, you go in the big wide world of learning and engineering, trade, and all these sort of things. You do get challenges just from the person sitting next to you, because you're different to them. And some of them just wanted to see what you're made of. But I was never afraid to actually stand up and be counted. If they challenged me in the way of my ethnicity, then of course, it's something I had to learn to deal with. Now, how I dealt with that is I realized that being in the military, you are subjected to rules and regulations. And if you step outside of those boundaries, you will get disciplined. So you are the one that will get the egg on your face, so to speak, because you've been put into jail or something. Your career is kind of ruined. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure I progressed. So therefore, I learned how to deal with it by making sure that when I reacted with a positive. You may not, or they may not have liked what I said, but it was correct. So I made sure that if somebody challenged me in whatever way, be it against my ethnicity or color, or against how I worked or whatever, I made sure that when I challenged back, I was correct. And then people learn to respect you. Very important.
Excellent. So you held your character in place.
Absolutely. And you've got to, because if you want to be respected, you've got to show people that you've got what it takes to make the grade. And it wasn't easy because you've got to actually fight. And sometimes you learn that you've got to actually do it two times or 3 times as good as maybe the next person next to you to get the same award. So, you've got to be constantly on your feet in your best position, ready to take whatever is coming to you. And I made sure at best that I could that it was positive.
Right, so I can hear the determination in your voice.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to be determined, because what I saw were other people similar to me of my ethnicity that they sometimes resorted to maybe fisticuffs or something like that. Now, even though they may have been correct in the first place, then you find that, they've actually put the light on them as being, negative because of the way they reacted.
Lacking the self-discipline and control.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can't be right and then turn out to be wrong because of how you reacted. You need to be right and continue to be right and make it work for you. Because at the end of the day, the whole point is that you need to establish a career. And that career matters, because at the end of the day, the highest rank you reach will mean that, you won't have to get out of bed for a reasonable pension, whatever that might be. And that's related to your rank. So if your rank is thwarted, and you've done all the years, you haven't done yourself any service, in terms of you've done the years, but you haven't reached the ranks, so very important.
And that kind of brings me to attitude. So what was it that instilled in you to have that correct attitude and to maintain it regardless of the situation that you found yourself in?
Well, I have to really credit my parents really for bringing us up with, certain level of behavior and thinking and, staying on the right path of life, really. I was brought up in the church, and I think it was very, very good discipline. But they taught us to look at things in the right and the wrong way, and to ensure that we try and stay on the right path of life, because the path of life is there, and you can choose certainly the wrong path. So it was essential for me to stay on the right path of life to ensure that I achieved as much as I could. And of course, also thinking about youngsters that were coming behind me, that I could set an example to them. Very important.
Absolutely, that role model.
So
tell us some of your major achievements that when you look back now, that you're really proud of as part of your different stages of your life, as you progress through the RAF.
Yeah, as I progressed, obviously got married and have children. They're a great part of your life. And it's very sort of, what shall I say, quite an extensive thinking in terms of your family, because as you travel around going east, west, north and south, your family might be static and not able to travel with you. So those are really considerations for people to think about, because going off to the Falklands for 4 months and leaving your family behind, both you and your family will feel that, quite a bit, because of the long separations. And sometimes people go away for much longer than that. But going up through the ranks and achieving ultimately, the rank of Warrant Officer, which is really a very good rank in the Air Force, one of the best, I would say, it is quite an achievement, because it wasn't given to me. Each rank I acquired, I had to achieve, really put the effort in, but especially the rank of Warrant Officer. And then to be given the choice of, well, in the end, it wasn't a choice. I was told that I was going to be managing my training school for my trade in the Royal Air Force. For me, that was a great accolade. It wasn't easy. You were managing staff, many staff, both civilian and the military, but also many, many youngsters. But what I gained out on the front lines, so to speak, our operational unit, was a great deal of experience that I was then able to share with all these youngsters who came into my school, so to speak. And of course, those who thought they could pull the world out over my eyes, I had to sharply remind them to say, look, I was young once too, and I know what you're going to get, so don't do it.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. So you must have some testimonials from the work that you did, around And tell us a bit about, first of all, your role as it for the ejection seats and that, some of the technical stuff that you do.
So my trade, as you mentioned before, survival equipment technician. So what that entails is that it's assisted escape, life support, and survival. So the life support side of an aircrew that flies in any one of these multifaceted jets, fast jets or helicopters, is that once you plug yourself into that ejector seat, you have to talk to air traffic. You also need communication, oxygen, and a means of escape. So the life support side is to be able to communicate while you actually flying. And also if you go above altitude, you have oxygen. Then of course you have the assisted escape. If something goes wrong, you are sitting on an ejector seat, where a part of my world is actually ensuring that you survive should you have to come out the aircraft by pulling on the ejector seat. And of course, survival is when you actually come down, and hopefully that will happen most times, that you come down safely by way of a parachute, etc. You then can survive. So it's a multifaceted role, really. And in that, aviation physiology kicked in big time. In terms of you flying at speed, you've got to make sure that the person who is pulling gravity up to 6-7 G is taken care of, so that whatever happens to the body is actually maintained in the correct way so that they can still fly the aircraft. And, you know, safety is paramount. Safety, 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 because should something happen to the aircraft in terms of in war being shot down, or in peacetime something malfunctions, the ultimate is to make sure that aircrew is actually brought to safety and be able to fly again. So it was very, very responsible role.
So you must have some great testimonials from people who survived all of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Over my years, many people are ejected from, you know, a nice warm environment in the cockpit, you know, and for whatever reason, they've got to get out the aircraft because it's no longer able to fly. And fortunately, a lot of them made it, but unfortunately, some did not make it. Now, I remember being in Germany on a squadron, and an aircrew I knew very well because I used to play squash with him, came back in and put his equipment down on the table and said, "Thank you very much, everything worked." And I thought, well, excuse me, what do you mean? Well, I didn't realize that an hour or so before he had ejected because somebody else had shot him down accidentally, you know. Absolutely amazing. So, you know, it was great, you know, and it's always very good when the aircrew come back and they do show the appreciation. Say thank you very much. And the typical military style, let's go and have a beer. And even though they have a tear in their eye, you know, once you start to toast a beer, then, you know, it's really a very, very good feeling all around, you know, because, you know, the job you've done has saved the person's life, which is the ultimate.
Great, great. So just before we come to the end, this has been a really enlightening and interesting dialogue. What would you say is the lasting legacy for you when you look back all those years to that 18-year-old Donald Campbell? And what do you want to pass on as well as part of that legacy? Well,
I want to pass on the fact that, you know, some people may not see the bigger picture when we look at us as individual in our nation, to say that we are free. First of all, we were set free by our ancestors, those, in this case, let's talk about African and Caribbean people who gave their service, and some of them are still around from World War II. We've got to thank them for helping us to be free. And now that we're free, we've got to look at the fact that we are free, and to stay free, we need a nation of, to be defended by our armed forces, the Navy, the Army, and the Air Force. And for that, as a people, African and Caribbean in this case, we need to say to ourselves that we need to be a part of that world, because we are intertwined here in society. If we're going to make sure that we are representative, we need to be at the table. So for those who are inclined to join the military, I would encourage them to do that, because, you know, we are here. We're a part of the nation. We need to help the nation to defend itself. So for me, my life was absolutely fantastic because it's what I wanted to do. And I believe there are other young women and men out there who may want to take the same path of life. So I do encourage them and make sure that we go forth and stand up and be counted just like our foreparents did.
Thank you very much. And I look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.